Welcome to MidEast in Depth, part of Levant TV's Press Reviews. Raja ABDULRAHIM, staff writer for the Los Angeles Times, writes an article and she titles it, "Islamic State seen as interloper by larger militant groups." Since declaring a caliphate, the Islamic State has garnered support from more than a dozen Islamist militant groups in the Middle East and Asia. But the dearth of endorsements by many of the largest and most recognizable groups serves to underscore the limits of the newcomer's grand ambition. The Al-Qaeda breakaway group has proved a lightning rod for devout supporters and bitter enemies since entering the civil war in Syria in April 2013. Its sweeping advances into Iraq, gruesome tactics, and most pointedly, its declaration of an ultra-conservative Sunni Muslim state covering the wide portions of eastern Syria and northern Iraq that it now controls have led both the US-led airstrikes and pledges of allegiance by 13 fellow Islamic militant groups. Others have thrown their support behind Islamic State without placing themselves under the leadership of the self-proclaimed Caliph Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. But the best-known Islamic militant networks such as major Al-Qaeda affiliates, the Shabab in Somalia and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb in Africa, the Taliban in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Boko Haram in Nigeria have not signed on to the movement that is seeking to position itself as the rightful leader of Muslims worldwide and the preferred destination for would-be Islamist fighters. In Aleppo province in Syria, where the Western-backed Free Syrian Army and the Islamic Front have controlled large chunks of territory, imams have taken to the pulpit in favor of the Islamic State, speaking of the airstrikes as a crusader war on Muslims, said Humam Halabi, a member of the Al-Qaeda affiliate Al-Nusra Front. The rising ground support has corresponded with an exodus of fighters from other groups, especially foreign fighters, joining Islamic State's ranks, which encourages them to say that it is 100% right because they are the only ones getting struck by the West, he said. They say these strikes are going to weaken them, but in opposite, it is going to strengthen them. And moving on to Beirut, the editorial team at the Daily Star features an article on Syria. The article is titled, "A Regime Reassured." The editor starts by saying that the message from the world to Syrian President Bashar Al-Assad has never been clearer. Proceed with all the violence against your people that your regime can muster. They believe this week's meeting between the Russian and Turkish leaders represents one component of the message, as Vladimir Putin and Recep Tayyip Erdogan were talking business, dispelling any notion that their differences on the Assad regime would block their relationship. The White House, meanwhile, is still basking in the glow of its latest accomplishment on the Syria front, namely the ouster of Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, who had the insolence to point out that US policy was a confused and contradictory mess. Kuwait, moreover, recently declined to host another donors conference for Syria after various sides failed to honor their earlier pledges. Kuwait is also giving visas to Syrian regime diplomats so that its embassy can be reopened. But Western countries have been the most disappointing when it comes to Syria. They preach about the need to alleviate Syria's suffering, but refuse to take in refugees. The Daily Star concludes, these countries preach about Assad's lack of legitimacy, but block every serious move to see meaningful political change. And worst of all, they believe that all of those confused and confusing moves will have no repercussions in the future when it's time to put Syria back together again. That was it for today's brief analysis. For more updates, please visit us on levant.tv. You could also subscribe to MidEast in Depth on iTunes. Thanks for watching and bye for now.